Hello, my creeplings. I'm back again. I know, this woman won't shut up. So I I don't want to say reach back into the mothballs, but this is an older one. It's one I hadn't seen before, but I was aware of. And with my love of H.P. Lovecraft, I knew I was going to eventually sit down and watch this. So this is from 1987. It's called The Curse. The biggest names that are in here that I recognize, and I could be really wrong on not recognizing some of the other names, but Wil Wheaton, probably around the same time as Stand By Me, definitely before Wesley Crusher, and John Schneider a few years post The Dukes of Hazzard, and way before Jonathan Kent on Smallville. So this one is another one of those science fiction horrors. Again, it's based on an H.P. Lovecraft story called The Color Out of Space. We have, like I said, the rest of the Amy Wheaton, Will's little sister, plays, guess what? His little sister in this one. I think this was actually her first film. This is directed by the actor David Keith. I remember him most from Firestarter and Officer and a Gentleman. I think this was his directorial debut. It's not a bad movie. It did, I believe, flop at the box office. It's not a, top tier, I'm going to watch it again and again and again movie, but if I'm going to use this as a film as an example of how Lovecraft can be updated to fit even within the modern day, this could be one that you could cite for that. So, to start off the story, we have a family of a stepfather and his son, and then a mom and her two kids. Now, the mom is played by Kathleen Jordan Gregory. She plays Frances Crane, and her kids are the Wheaton kids. Their characters are Zach and Alice. And then you have Claude Akins. That name sounds familiar to me, but I can't place him. So if he was a bigger actor when I was young and I just didn't catch it, those of you who are Claude Akins fans, I'm sorry. That's just the way my brain is working today. He plays the stepfather, Nathan Crane, and his son, Cyrus, who's kind of your, slow, dumb bully type, is played by Malcolm Denare. He looks familiar to me, but I can't place him. I looked at the filmography and nothing jumped out at me. So, again, it could just be that maybe I saw him a lot on TV or something growing up. And then you've got local doctor named Alan Forbes and his wife, Esther. You've got Charlie Davidson is a character who is like a bigwig in their tiny little town. He's kind of an asshole. And then the only other two characters you need to know are John Schneider playing he's a surveyor, basically, for the Tennessee Valley Authority, because this takes place in Tennessee, named Carl Willis. And then they have a farmhand named Mike. So, the siblings don't get along very well. Cyrus is a bully. It seems like mom married Crane because no, father for the kids, and they needed taken care of. And, to put it bluntly, he is a Bible thumping prick. He's older, so maybe that's part of it. This takes place in Tellico or Tellico. I'm going to say Tellico, probably. Tellico Plains, Tennessee, as an actual town. They filmed on, I keep wanting to say Keith David, but it's David Keith, so if I slip up, I apologize. We will talk about Keith David eventually, because he's got some good stuff. But David Keith owns a ranch outside Tellico Plains, so they used his ranch for all the outside stuff. So we get this idea that this family doesn't get along very well. Bible thumping stepfather, bully stepson, mom and her two kids are basically knowing that they're there for a reason, and that's, she married him to basically keep her out of the poorhouse, I'm guessing. It's kind of the feeling we're getting. You were also introduced to this Charlie character. Yeah, Charlie Davidson. I'm going to get these names wrong, y'all, and I apologize. He's trying to buy the Crane farm. so that he can turn around and sell the farm, I think, to the Tennessee Valley Authority because they want to put a reservoir in. That's the reason why Carl Willis is there, the John Schneider character. But one night, Mom gets tired of being turned down by Bible-thumping Dick and apparently decides to go fuck the farmhand Mike. Now, Mike ain't exactly, what's the word I'm looking for? He ain't exactly, Chippendale, play with girl material, but I guess he'll do. He was younger than the husband and definitely into it. Well, while they're doing that in the middle of the night, this huge ass meteor comes out the sky, lands on the farm. And we're talking this thing's probably got about a football field, or at least half a football field, of trench it dug itself as it landed. So Zach, Will Wheaton's character, being a smart boy, apparently they live right next door to the town doctor. He goes and gets the doctor because he's the smartest guy he knows. And they kind of look at it and they're like, okay, well, I think he checked it with a radiation, like a Geiger counter. Why he had his own handheld Geiger counter, I'll never know. And they didn't think it was radioactive, but he's like, we'll come back in the morning, because it's like 2 o'clock in the morning when this happens. We'll come back tomorrow. We'll check it out. So the next day they're checking it out. He's trying to chip away at it and everything. This thing has shrunk a little bit. And when he pounds it, he's got like a chisel and a hammer and he's pounding it. It starts gushing this goo. Well, Charlie's trying to get the doctor to not do anything about it so that, they can sell the land, shady land deal crap. Charlie gets the doctor's wife in on it because she wants to move and she's afraid that, they won't be able to sell their house for what it's worth. So, typical small town BS. So the whole time that this is happening, they're trying to dig a new well on the property at the farm, and the meteor eventually just dissolves into this icky goo and gets into the water table. Little Zach starts noticing that the water tastes funny. And we start seeing things like Mom is getting boils on her face and slowly going crazy. The chickens are going nuts. The food on the farm, the fruits and vegetables, they're growing so huge and luscious looking, but the second you crack them open, maggots and goo and rot and ick. And they're drinking this water. Zach finally says, he starts stealing water from the doctor because it hasn't gotten to the town's water table yet. It's just settled into the farm. Over, time, we find that everybody on the farm's getting infected except for little Alice and little Zach because he's taking care of his little sister. Mom gets basically locked up because Bible-thumping stepdad has decided that this plague was brought upon them by her adulterous ways. I'm not kidding. That's the line. We see, the chickens go crazy and attack poor Alice. The cows, oh, that's gross. One of them just explodes and maggots comes out of it, and some of them, I don't know how they did all these effects on these animals, but there's one shot where he's inspecting a cow and it's got sores and ulcers everywhere on its face. This is a real live cow, guys, or at least it looked like it to me. So, whatever they did hopefully didn't hurt the cows, but yes, unfortunately, if you're an animal lover, there is a lot of exploding animal carcass in this one. There's a lot of goo effects, too. The effects were okay. The story was okay. Actually, the story was pretty solid. It was executed okay. So we get to Willis is surveying the land because that's part of his job. And he goes to the house. He's hot as hell, wants a drink of water. He gets a little bit out of the tap. And he's run off by stepdad. And just things keep getting worse and worse at the farm. Well, it all pretty much comes to a head when Mom goes completely crazy. She's practically mutated with all these boils and everything. Dad throws her in the basement, Stepdad throws her in the basement. The next day, the cows start exploding, and the dogs go feral, and let's see, Charlie and the doctor's wife go out to the farm to try and convince him to sell again. They're attacked by the dog. Well, she's attacked by the dogs. Charlie's attacked by Mom in the basement and possibly eaten, so we've got some cannibalism going. After all is said and done, both stepdad and stepson are infected and go to attack little Zach. Well, Willis, the doctor, had the water tested after he started noticing things got really weird over there. And the test came back that, whatever the substance was actually changing the molecular structure of the water. So he goes out to go try and, save anybody that he could. The dad kills him. Willis is right behind him for some reason, ends up getting Zach and Alice out. And we end on a note where Willis is in the hospital, all bandaged up, so you could assume that whatever had killed Mom, Mom completely gooed out by the end, too. Zach goes back to get her at the end, because when Willis and the doctor get there, the ground starts heaving, the house is coming down around them. It's pure chaos. Little Zach goes back to get his mom. She's completely she's like turning into this goo puddle in the basement. It just looked, ugh. What a way to see your mom go. But we get to the end. Willis is in the hospital, all bandaged up, so we're to assume that he's been attacked by whatever it was, even though he only had a little bit of water. That's why it took so long. I think it's 6 months later. And he's watching a news report on how they're going to get the contamination at the Crane Farm under control to keep it from spreading. But our last shots are of the ground heaving elsewhere, glowing and souping goo. So obviously, whatever this is, the parasite, the funky chemical, whatnot, has spread, and that's the note we end on. Like I said, not a bad movie. I would use it as an example of H.P. Lovecraft turned into film where it was somewhat effective. Although I really do need to read this story. I keep forgetting how much I want to delve into the original Lovecraft every time I watch a movie based on some of his stuff. Don't get me wrong, I really want to read the original Reanimator, but I think I might like the movie better. That could just be because of Jeffrey Combs. Where was I going with this? But yeah, this is that kind of American Gothic, Deep South horror. Part of the suspense factor comes from being in an isolated farm town. I have not spent that much time in the South, and if I have Southerners and I am incorrect, please correct me. But I get the feeling it's a lot like the Midwest in the way that there might be major cities within states. Like, I'm going to use my home state of Ohio here, for example. We have Cleveland, Akron, Cincinnati, Toledo, and Columbus. 5 big cities. We got a big landmass, though. I will say that much. So we have 5 big cities. Anywhere in between those, where you have the suburbs. So I live in the central Ohio area. So anywhere from about just south of Marion on the north end and about Grove City on the south end. Not quite sure how far it goes east and west. Anything outside of that, until you get closer to another major city, is pretty much all what I would call a one-stoplight farm town. I grew up in one of those in Northwest Ohio, and they are very insular. You have to travel to do anything. Like, if we wanted to go to the mall, and again, this is a Midwestern thing. We don't use miles, we use minutes. We had to go like 45 minutes to an hour to a mall, depending on where we wanted to go. So, like, if we wanted to do back-to-school shopping, it was an entire day of riding around in the car, going to 1 or 2 malls in two different small cities. I basically call them over large towns. If you wanted to go to a concert, like a big concert, like when I was growing up, if I wanted to go see like Def Leppard or The Cure or anything like that, y'all, you had to drive sometimes 2-3 hours, depending on where they went. So that was like a whole day thing. You got a hotel, or you got a group of friends where one of them was always the night owl and could drive home in the middle of the night. 90% of the time we got a hotel. So that kind of insular feeling definitely adds to your terror, to your suspense. And this was also done in the mid 80s, so, you know, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have internet, we didn't have, you know, all the connectivity we had now. So imagine this is happening to you where you're not close to a major city where you can get something tested and figure out that it's bad right away. And you have to sit here and watch your family deteriorate. Dude, that's hard. And that is scary as a part of the human condition. The effects of this were okay. They weren't the greatest. They were a lot of goo effects. Those were pulled off very well. But like the pustules and the boils and the eventual mutation face looked a little rubber masky. But again, time frame, and I didn't see that there was a big effects house attached to this. But all in all, The Curse, from 1987, starring Will Wheaton and John Schneider, and Claude Akins and a handful of other people. Not a bad movie. I would suggest watching it if you can get a hold of it for free. I either got it off of YouTube or the archive, but I think it's running on Tubi or Pluto TV I saw recently, so, you know, free to watch. Great idea if it's on late night TV, because part of me thinks I may have seen this or bits and pieces of this before, channel surfing late at night back in the late 90s, early 2000s, back when, you know, local Fox stations wouldn't have programming from, say, like midnight to 4 a.m. and they didn't always want to run paid commercials, the infomercials, so to speak. They would put movies like this on late at night, and me being an insomniac, I would catch bits and pieces of them. This kind of feels like that. Soundtrack does a very good job of building suspense and kind of still reminding you that you're in the Deep South because there's a little twang to it. All in all, a very enjoyable movie. I would not turn it down if someone said, hey, we are going through the Will Wheaton filmography, or, hey, I saw this one was based on a Lovecraft. Have you seen it? Yeah, I've seen it. You want to watch it? But yeah, that's where I stand on The Curse. Not a bad movie. Not a good movie. Give it a chance if you like Lovecraft or that kind of alien takeover type thing. This was infinitely better than The Stuff, but the same kind of idea. Parasite introduced through ingestion. In this case, it was the drinking water and anything that the drinking water touched. In the case of The Stuff, it was, you know, something coming out of the ground. This was infinitely better. I would rather watch this than The Stuff. If you wanted to double feature that and do a contrast and compare on a good versus bad Alien Parasite movie, that might be a good idea for this. Might have to do that. Get some of my horror watching friends together and have them discuss. But on that note, this is my day off. So what am I going to do? I'm going to sit on my butt and I'm going to watch movies in between doing chores. And I got a good one, a couple of good ones lined up for my next few watches, and we will discuss them. So on that note, good night, my creeplings, and I'll see you next time. Bye.